The nightmare always began with sunlight. It was a cruel trick of the mind, starting not with darkness, but with the brilliant warm glow of a late summer afternoon. Maurice Langford would be standing on the porch of her childhood home, the air thick with the scent of cut grass and pine. Her 9-year-old daughter, Lily, all blonde hair and boundless energy, would be climbing into the polished silver Airstream camper, her small hand swallowed by the weathered, capable one of her grandfather, Thomas. They would both turn, 2 generations of her heart, and wave goodbye, their smiles promising a swift return from their routine camping trip. Then the world would dissolve, the sunlight would curdle, the waving hands would blur, and Maurice would be left with only the phantom sensation of Lily's last hug, a desperate, fierce embrace that had lingered for 7 torturous years. She jolted awake, her heart a frantic drum against her ribs. The red digits on her bedside clock glowed. 4:45 a.m., the hour of ghosts. She sat up in the oppressive darkness of her Ashland bedroom, pushing damp hair from her forehead. 7 years. 2,555 days since that camping trip. And still the dream came with merciless regularity. A fresh wound torn open each dawn. A sharp, unexpected knock at her front door made her jump, a sound so alien at this hour it felt like a gunshot. Another knock, more insistent this time, followed by a muffled voice calling her name. "Mrs. Langford? Maurice Langford?" She grabbed her nightgown from the chair, wrapping it tightly around herself as she padded barefoot to the door. Through the peephole, she saw 2 figures huddled under her porch light, their forms haloed in the damp Oregon air. One wore a dark, severe suit, the other a sheriff's uniform. Maurice's hands trembled as she undid the locks. Agent Jonah Kessler stood on her doorstep, his expression etched with a practiced solemnity. He held up his FBI badge, a small gold shield that seemed to absorb all the light. Beside him, Sheriff Andrea Brody shifted her weight, her face grim. "I'm sorry to wake you, Mrs. Langford," Agent Kessler said, his voice carrying the low, careful timbre of someone perpetually delivering difficult news. "We've been trying to reach you for the past hour." "My phone," Maurice mumbled, her mind fogged with sleep and dread. "I put it on silent last night." "I'm sorry. What's happened?" The 2 officers exchanged a glance that spoke volumes. Sheriff Brody stepped forward. "Ma'am, we need you to come with us. We found your father's camper." The words didn't compute. They were puzzle pieces from different boxes. His camper? But that's where? "At Monticello Dam," Agent Kessler said, his gaze steady. "In the glory hole Spillway." The what? The glory hole. Maurice's mind struggled to conjure the image she'd seen in photographs. That massive, surreal, circular drain, a concrete funnel in the middle of Lake Berryessa, designed to swallow overflow water. "I don't understand. How could a camper be in—" "Someone dumped it there," Sheriff Brody interrupted gently. "We believe within the last few hours. Emergency services are working to extract it as we speak. We need you to come identify it, and some items that may be recovered from inside." Maurice's legs felt weak, the porch floor seeming to tilt beneath her. After 7 years of nothing, of cold trails and colder comfort from authorities, this sudden, violent development felt unreal. Did you find... "We should discuss this on the way," Agent Kessler said. "It's about a 2-hour and 40-minute drive to Napa County. The extraction team hopes to have the camper out by the time we arrive." "I need to change," Maurice heard herself say, her own voice sounding distant and thin. She dressed mechanically, jeans, a sweater, tennis shoes, her hands shaking so badly she could barely zip her fly. The black sedan waited in her driveway, its engine a low, impatient hum. As they pulled onto the empty highway, The world still cloaked in pre-dawn darkness, Agent Kessler turned from the passenger seat. "I know this is a shock, Mrs. Langford. We received a call around 2 a.m. from a maintenance worker at the dam. He was checking water levels after last night's storm and spotted something metallic lodged in the spillway." "The storm?" Maurice repeated, remembering the fierce thunderstorm that had rattled her windows. "That's what we're trying to figure out," Sheriff Brody said, her eyes on the rearview mirror. "Whoever did this knew the area. They knew the storm would create heavy water flow. We think they expected the camper to be crushed and swept through to the outlet. But it got stuck." "Lucky for us," Maurice murmured. They drove in tense silence as the sky bled from black to a deep bruised purple. As they approached Monticello Dam, Maurice saw the police barriers first. The normally bustling Lake Berryessa recreation area had been cordoned off, a city of flashing lights against the rising sun. And there it was, her breath caught in her throat. The aluminum airstream sat on the roadside, water still dripping from its riveted silver skin. Even from a distance, she recognized its distinctive streamlined shape. The rounded edges her father had lovingly polished every spring. But 7 years had not been kind. Rust streaked the once gleaming surface like dried tears, and the windows were clouded with a filthy grime. A man in a Caltrans vest intercepted them. "Hell of a thing, getting that out of there," he said, gesturing to the massive crane still positioned near the spillway. The thing was wedged at about a 20-degree angle, like someone just backed it right up to the edge and let it roll in. Maurice stepped closer, her heart hammering. Even damaged and waterlogged, it was unmistakably her father's. She saw the small, crescent-shaped dent near the door handle where she'd backed into it with her bicycle when she was 12. It was a time capsule of her life, now a piece of evidence. "The forensics team has already done a preliminary search," Agent Kessler said gently. "Mrs. Langford, I need to tell you, we didn't find any human remains inside." She nodded, unsure if the feeling washing over her was relief or a deeper, more profound disappointment. "But we did recover several items," he said, leading her to a folding table where evidence bags were laid out. Her legs nearly gave out when she saw it. The red sweater. Even sealed in plastic, she recognized the purple floral embroidery on the sleeves, the one Lily had insisted on adding herself at the craft store. "That's Lily's," she whispered, her voice cracking. "And this?" Agent Kessler held up another bag. Inside was a photograph, water-damaged but horribly clear. Her father and Lily, standing in front of this very camper, both grinning at the camera. Lily wore the same red sweater, her blonde hair let loose just how she liked it. Thomas had his arm around her, a look of pure, grandfatherly pride on his face. Maurice's tears came then, hot and sudden. "There's also this," Sheriff Brody said, showing her a digital camera in another bag. "Do you recognize it?" Maurice wiped her eyes. My father didn't use digital cameras. He was proud of his old film ones. Always said digital had no soul. Agent Kessler's expression was carefully neutral. "Mrs. Langford, I know we've discussed this before, but with this evidence, your father's camper, his belongings, items belonging to Lily, we have to consider that Thomas may have been involved in your daughter's disappearance." "He was 60 years old," Maurice said, her voice finding a sudden strength. "He's 67 now. How could he take care of a child alone for 7 years? It doesn't make sense." The news vans were arriving, vultures drawn to the spectacle. When the cameras rolled, microphones were thrust at her face. Maurice tried to speak clearly. "Dad, if you're watching this, please come home. Bring Lily back to me." As they drove away from the dam, Maurice pressed her forehead against the cool window glass. The morning sun climbed higher, burning off the last wisps of the storm clouds. Somewhere out there, she hoped, her father and daughter were watching this same sunrise. The return journey to Ashland stretched into an eternity of thought. By the time they pulled into the police station, it was past noon. "I know you want to go home," Agent Kessler said, "but I'd like to review the case file with you while everything's fresh." In a conference room that smelled of burnt coffee, he pulled up the original missing persons report. August 18th, 2001, you called 911 at 8:47 p.m. Morris nodded, the memory still raw. They were supposed to be back by dinner. Dad was never late when Lily was with him. "Officers were dispatched to the campground," Sheriff Brody read. "They found the designated campsite empty, not just empty, meticulously cleaned." Crime scene photos filled the screen. The campsite looked sterile, and the fire pit scrubbed, the ground swept clean. "That level of cleaning suggests deliberate concealment," Agent Kessler said. He pulled up another file. The same day, at 2:15 p.m., your father entered First National Bank of Ashland and withdrew his entire life savings. $400,000. In cash. The bank's security footage filled the screen. There was her father at the teller window, Lily beside him, holding his hand. Nothing in her body language suggested fear. She wore the red sweater. "He took her to get ice cream after bank visits," Maurice said quietly. It was their tradition. The conference room phone rang. Agent Kessler answered, listened, then hung up. "Forensics, they've accessed the memory card from the digital camera. In the basement tech lab, a young technician named Carlos greeted them. Water got into the camera body, but these SD cards are tough. I recovered 27 images." Photos appeared on the screen. Lily building sandcastles, Lily roasting marshmallows, Lily laughing on a tire swing. She looked happy, healthy, and older. "Check the metadata," Carlos said. These were taken in 2005 and 2006. She would have been 13 or 14. Morris stared at the images. A maelstrom of confusion and hope and terror churning inside her. It was Lily, but it was a Lily she didn't know. Maurice stood at her mailbox, the ordinary ritual feeling surreal. Bills, ads, and a plain white envelope. No return address, no postmark. Just her name, written in careful, neat script. She tore it open and sighed. A single sheet of paper fell out, along with a black cassette tape that clattered onto the dining table. Her hands began to tremble as she read the letter. The handwriting was eerily familiar, a more mature version of Lily's own. "Mom, I will see you again soon. Please listen to Grandpa. He is a kind person. He just wants what's best for me. If you don't listen to him, then we'll never meet again. Ella." Ella? Lily had never gone by Ella, and the threat felt alien, cold. What had those 7 years done to her little girl? The cassette tape. She needed to play it. Her father's house. The thought was a minefield, but she had to know. The house was a time capsule, smelling of dust and abandoned spaces. The calendar on the wall still showed August 2001. She found his old stereo system, inserted the tape, and pressed play. Static, then a voice that stopped her heart. "Maurice, sweetheart, it's Dad." She sank onto the couch. It was him, unmistakably him. "I know you're confused and angry. I don't blame you, but I need you to listen carefully. Lily is safe with me. She's happy, healthy. I had my reasons. Good reasons. One day you'll understand. For now, I need you to stop the police investigation. Tell them you want to move on. If you do this, we can reunite. But Maurice, if you bring this tape to the police, I'll know. And you'll never see us again. To prove you're willing to trust me, stay at my house tonight. Just tonight. The tape clicked off. She played it again and again. Could it be true? Had her gentle, loving father orchestrated all of this? The idea felt like madness. Yet the voice was undeniably his. Every instinct screamed to call Agent Kessler. This was evidence, a break in the case, but the threat. What if it was real? She made her decision. She would stay. One night. She would give her father this one chance. The nightmare released her at 5 a.m. in the unfamiliar guest room. Morris sat up, the silence of her father's house pressing in. She had followed the instructions. Nothing had happened. On impulse, she found her father's old Sony Walkman in a drawer. Putting the mysterious cassette inside and slipping on the headphones, his voice felt more intimate, as if he were sitting right beside her. She listened to the whole message again. The words were the same, but through the headphones she could hear more. The slight wheeze in his breathing, a faint echo suggesting a small room. And then, at the very end, a split second before the tape clicked off, there was something else. Another voice, male, younger, saying what sounded like, "That's enough." Her eyes snapped open. Someone else had been there. Someone had controlled the recording. The implications raced through her. If her father was being manipulated, then he wasn't a kidnapper. He was a hostage. And Lily? Lily was a prisoner. She scanned her street with new urgency. A dark pickup truck she didn't recognize was parked next door. Heavily tinted windows. It had arrived late last night, a neighbor told her. The second voice changed everything. She couldn't handle this alone. She had to go to the police. Her father's recorded words echoed in her mind. "I'll know." But the risk was too great. She reversed out of her driveway and headed toward the station. 3 blocks from her house, she saw it, the dark pickup in her rearview mirror. It maintained a steady distance, a predator stalking its prey. When she turned, it turned. When she changed lanes, it followed. Her heart hammered against her ribs. She was being tailed. Maurice pressed harder on the accelerator. The police station was just ahead. Suddenly, the truck surged forward, its engine roaring. It pulled alongside her, then swerved, forcing her toward the shoulder, herding her onto a narrow, unmarked dirt road. The truck angled across the track, blocking her path. The driver's door opened. A woman stepped out, maybe in her 40s, with dark hair pulled back in a severe ponytail. She moved with a cold, confident purpose. "Roll down your window," the woman said. Maurice cracked it 2 inches. "Who are you? Where's my family?" "You should have stayed at the house," the woman sneered. The words confirmed her worst fears. "Get out of the car. Hands where I can see them." A folding knife flicked open in her hand with practiced ease. The woman, whose muscles stood out on her forearms like coiled rope, zip-tied Maurice's wrists with brutal efficiency. "Phone!" she demanded, dumping Maurice's purse on the hood. She pushed Maurice into the passenger seat of her own car and got behind the wheel. As Ashland fell away behind them, the woman ordered her to call Agent Kessler. "Tell him you're done with the investigation, or your family won't live through this." Her hands shaking, Maurice made the call, forcing a false calm into her voice, feeding him a story about her father having a syndrome, a fixation on children. Kessler's voice grew worried. "Mrs. Langford, are you in some kind of trouble?" The woman snatched the phone, ripped the battery out, and flung it from the window. They drove in tense silence for hours, climbing into the wild country of the Coast Range. Finally, they reached a collection of derelict cottages, places people went when they didn't want to be found. The woman, Colleen, pulled up to one that had smoke drifting from its chimney. "Stay here," she ordered. A man, Roy, emerged from another car parked nearby. He was lean, weathered, and furious. "Colleen, what the hell have you done?" he yelled, his voice carrying on the thin mountain air. "You're leading the cops straight to us." "They found the camper," she shot back. "It didn't get crushed like you planned." "I used the old man's recording," she confessed. "The one you kept for Plan B. I had the girl write a letter." The slap echoed across the clearing. "You did all this without consulting me." Roy's voice was low and dangerous. "You've ruined everything. Get rid of her." He jabbed a finger toward Maurice. "I'm taking the girl and leaving." Maurice's heart stopped. Lily was here, in Roy's car. Her hands were tied, but her feet were free. As they argued, she moved, sliding painfully across the center console. She was in the driver's seat. The key was still in the ignition. She twisted, using her elbow to shift into reverse. The car lurched backward. Roy and Colleen's heads snapped up. Maurice stomped on the brake, cranked the wheel, and slammed the gear shift into drive. She floored the accelerator. The car leapt forward. They dodged, but the wrong way, directly into her path. The impact was a sickening thud. Both bodies flew backward. Maurice slammed on the brakes, her whole body shaking. They were alive, groaning and cursing. She shouldered the door open and ran for the cottage, fumbling for a knife from the block on the counter. She sawed frantically at the zip tie, slicing her own hand in the process, but it finally snapped free. She grabbed the rotary phone on the wall and spun 911. 911! What is your... Through the window, she saw Roy pushing himself up, limping toward his car, toward Lily. "Help!" Maurice screamed into the dangling receiver. "Mountain Cottage! Kidnapping!" No time for more. She gripped the knife and ran back outside. She kicked Roy hard in the back of his injured leg. He went down with a cry of pain. "Give me your keys!" she screamed, standing over him. Roy laughed, a bloody, unhinged sound. "You abandoned her? What kind of mother does that?" He lunged, his hand closing around her wrist, turning the knife back toward her. As they struggled, a rusty sedan appeared on the dirt road, saw the scene, and sped away. The distraction made Roy glance away for a crucial second. His face contorted with fury. In one vicious motion, he reversed the knife's direction and drove it deep into Maurice's stomach. The pain was a white-hot nova. Her legs gave out. Through a haze of shock, she watched Roy limp to his car. He was leaving, taking Lily. But Colleen, who had managed to stand, stumbled toward him. "Roy, wait!" He shoved her away with brutal force. "You deal with your mess," he snarled. "I'm done with you." The engine roared, but he only made it 20 meters. Sirens, then lights, materialized through the trees. Police cars blocked the road. Uniforms converged on Roy's car, pulling him out, forcing him to the ground. Somewhere behind her, Colleen's voice, weak and bitter, cut through the chaos. "I hope you die, just like your father." The words hit almost as hard as the knife. Thomas was dead. He was really gone. Maurice felt herself fading, the pain a distant thing, when something pressed against her wound. Her eyes fluttered open one last time. Colleen was there, driving the blade deeper, her voice a hiss of blame as the world finally went black. The first thing Morris became aware of was the beeping. Steady, rhythmic, mechanical. Her eyelids fluttered open to harsh, fluorescent lights. A hospital room. "Welcome back," a nurse said, smiling. "You've been quite the fighter. 3 days in a coma, but you pulled through." She explained the damage. Severe blood loss. A punctured kidney that had to be removed. "You're lucky to be alive," she said. Later, Agent Kessler sat by her bed. "Roy and Colleen Barron are in custody," he said. "Kidnapping, murder, attempted murder. We recovered Lily from Roy's vehicle. She's 15 years old now. She's alive, Mrs. Langford." Tears flooded Maurice's eyes. "How is she?" "Where is she?" "Physically, she's okay. CPS has her. She's been asking about you." Slowly, Kessler laid out the real story. Her father had taken Lily camping. That night, they encountered Roy Barron, a hunter whose own daughter had died years earlier. Lily bore an uncanny resemblance to her. Roy, broken by grief and suffering from severe untreated PTSD, snapped. He killed Thomas, but not before forcing him to withdraw his life savings, using Lily as leverage. Roy brought Lily home to Colleen, telling her their dead daughter had returned. In her own fragile state, Colleen believed him, or chose to. For 7 years, they had raised Lily as their own, a prisoner in a cage of their shared delusion, telling her she'd been sold by her grandfather. The discovery of the camper had made them panic, leading to their reckless, violent downfall. A soft knock interrupted them. A social worker entered, followed by a teenage girl. Maurice's breath stopped. Lily was tall, her blonde hair past her shoulders. She was thin, with guarded eyes that looked far too old. But it was her. "Mom?" Lily's voice was uncertain, hopeful. "Oh, baby." Maurice held out her arms. Lily rushed forward, careful of the IV lines, and fell into her mother's embrace. They held each other, two halves of a shattered whole, both crying now. "They killed Grandpa," Lily sobbed against her mother's shoulder. "He tried to protect me. They made me think he sold me, but he didn't." "Shh, sweetheart." Maurice stroked her hair, breathing in the impossible reality of her. "I know. We'll find him. We'll bring him home." The road ahead would be long. Trials, therapy, years of healing. But right now, in this hospital room with the monitors beeping a steady rhythm of life, and her daughter warm and real in her arms, Maurice felt something she hadn't experienced in 7 years. Hope. "We're together again," she whispered to Lily. "That's what matters. We'll go home. We'll be okay." Lily pulled back just enough to look at her mother's face. Despite everything she'd endured, a small, fragile smile appeared. "I'd like that, Mom. I'd really like that." The sun slanted through the hospital window, painting golden squares on the white blanket. Mother and daughter held each other. No longer lost. Finally found.